The Threepwood Bleach and Dye Works lies next to the old Cuff Hill Reservoir near Beith in North Ayrshire. Previously, there's just a small valley with the Cadgerford burn running through it. The Weavers, or Threepwood Well, said to be the site where the Parliament met each morning. Representatives from those involved in the linen trade would meet and discuss the plans for the day. Flax is used to make linen. It was taken and laid under water in a retting pond and left there for a while for the rotting to begin. Once it had been carried out sufficiently, it was taken into a low house, where it was first of all broken, then scutched, and finally heckled, at which point it was ready to be taken to a mill to be processed into yarn, the thread being used to weave the cloth. The bleach works machinery was powered by a water wheel. This used the water from the Cadgerford burn, which was dammed up in the mill pond, which lay in this area here. All the sites involved in the linen trade were joined together by the Threepwood Road. The mill was once quite a large building. It seemed to be constructed with at least 2 or 3 houses for the accommodation of workers, and a lane ran on either side. Much of this area once lay within the mill. Here the water from the Cadgerford burn would flow down into the wheel pit and turn the water wheel. Above was the old mill dam with a sluice, which would control the water as required to turn the wheel as was needed. Set into a wall above the mill there's an arch, and maps show there was a deep pit lying above this area. This may have contained the alkaline fluid known as lye, where the process of what's called bucking started. That's the beginning of the bleaching process. Developments in the use of chlorine and other chemicals to bleach cloth brought this traditional process to an end, which had been very time-consuming and very labour-intensive. It's known that this mill was still bleaching linen thread in the 1850s, but had been abandoned by the 1890s. There was another thread mill in Bar Mill, and even to this day there's a factory which makes nets in Dalry, which still uses thread. A little distance from the bleach works are the long, thin, rectangular remains of the building that was the dye works. From here, a path ran a fair distance across to sunny side of Threepwood, where a fine building stands. This was probably once the home of the manager of the mill. The alkaline lye used in the first part of the process of bleaching was made from the ashes from ash trees and from bracken, of which there was a plentiful supply in the district. These ruins at sunny side of Threepwood may relate to the old bleach field, where the cloth was laid out and left in the sun for a considerable time to further the process of bleaching. In the days of the linen trade, Threepwood Road would have seen a considerable amount of traffic by horseback or by cart, and this building, town end of Threepwood, which at one time was quite large with a number of outbuildings, seems likely to have been used as a public house. Going off at a tangent, one of the 12 battles that King Arthur fought before he was successful at Mount Badon in stopping the Saxon advance was the Battle of Beith, and local legend has it it took place in this glen. small opening is a typical jug window, where a jug will be passed through to be filled with beer. Also worth noting here is the size of the stones in the building. This shows how old the building was, meaning that the stones were collected from field clearance rather than from being quarried.